Have you ever felt like you're playing a role in your own life? Like you're moving through each day wearing a mask so seamlessly that even you forget what's underneath? You smile when you're supposed to. You say the right thing. You become the version of yourself that's easiest to accept, easiest to love, easiest to control. But here's the problem. The more you play that part, the further you drift from yourself. And that is where the suffering begins. Most people aren't depressed because their life is meaningless. They're in pain because they've abandoned who they really are. They've traded authenticity for acceptance. They've given up truth for peace, and they've mistaken survival for living. Carl Jung didn't believe that your life begins when you succeed or when others finally approve of you. He believed your life begins the moment you stop pretending, the moment you risk being misunderstood in order to be real. But that's terrifying, isn't it? Because the truth is, we've been taught to be who others want us to be. Since childhood, in school, in relationships, we became so skilled at adapting, adjusting, shape-shifting, that now when we look in the mirror, we don't even know who's looking back. This isn't your fault. You were trained to seek love by abandoning yourself, to be good by being quiet, to be worthy by being useful. But here's a truth most never tell you. Pretending will keep you accepted, but it will never make you free. And until you reclaim the parts of yourself you've silenced, you will always feel a little empty inside. So I have one question to open this journey. What would happen if you stopped pretending? Not in rebellion, not to prove anything, but just long enough to breathe, long enough to feel what's been buried, long enough to hear the voice that's been whispering underneath it all. Let me be me. You didn't start your life pretending, but somewhere along the line, you learned it was safer to wear a mask than to be real. A smile to please, a nod to avoid conflict, a version of yourself that was acceptable, not true. And now, that mask has grown so close to your skin you can't tell where it ends and you begin. You've been praised for being agreeable, applauded for being helpful, and slowly, invisibly, you traded authenticity for approval. But here's the secret no one told you. The more you play a role, the more invisible you become, not to the world, but to yourself. Jung called this persona, the face we wear to meet the world. But he warned, when you identify too strongly with it, you become disconnected from your soul. You forget what you want, you feel, you believe. You live by scripts written by someone else. And here's the trap. The world rewards your performance. The more perfectly you pretend, the more love you think you're receiving. But it's not love, it's validation of a version of you that doesn't exist. So what happens when you stop acting? You lose things fast, people, status, comfort. But what you gain is rarer. Presence, peace, and the terrifying freedom of being seen, really seen, without armor. And that's where we're going. Because in the next part, we'll talk about what happens the moment you put the mask down. The panic, the backlash, the silence, and why it's the most necessary rupture of your life. You think wearing your mask is harmless, a compromise, a necessary evil. But every performance demands something from you. Your time, your energy, your truth. Imagine you're on stage all day, every day. You project confidence when you feel doubt. You offer empathy when you feel rage. You feign interest when you're bored beyond measure. Each moment of inauthenticity is like a toll booth, collecting bits of your soul. This is the hidden cost of the persona. A psychic drain you barely notice until one day. You're exhausted. You're empty. Your spirit aches with the weight of so many borrowed faces. Behind every yes you never meant, behind every smile you forced, lies a fracture in your own sense of self. Because your psyche isn't meant to be split between who you are and who you pretend to be. And here's the kicker. The more you invest in your mask, the more you distance from your authentic strengths. Your creativity dulls, your intuition mutes, your passion feels like a memory. Jung called this split the shadow. The parts you hide become the parts that drive you from the dark. They don't disappear, they grow. Until one day you explode in anxiety, anger, or despair, a symptom of your own repression. But awareness is the first step. Notice the moments you perform against your will. Label them not as failures but as signals. Signals that your true self is waiting, just beyond the edge of your mask. In the next segment, we'll explore how to begin reclaiming that energy, how to notice the first fraying threads of your persona, and start pulling them apart. You might think taking off the mask is reckless, that being unapologetically yourself invites rejection. But here's the paradox. When you stop performing, you gain power you never knew you had. Imagine a room full of people expecting your act. Suddenly you fall silent. No scripted line, no eager reaction. Just you, unguarded. The atmosphere shifts. Eyes move from you to themselves. Questions bubble up. Who is this person really? In that moment of withdrawal, you break the pattern of control. Others lose their familiar script. They scramble to rewrite it, to reconnect, to understand, to regain their footing. This is not weakness. It is strategic silence, a form of self-assertion that says, "I will not be your puppet." Carl Jung spoke of the shadow that lingers when we hide ourselves, but he also spoke of the hidden self, the reservoir of strength, creativity, and authenticity waiting behind the mask. By choosing silence instead of automatic compliance, you reclaim your psychic energy. You disrupt manipulation. You command presence without a word. Yes, people may react with confusion or anger. They may accuse you of being distant, cold, or selfish. That's the backlash of your own liberation. They feel threatened because your unavailability exposes their dependence on your compliance. But that exposure is a gift. It reveals who truly respects you and who merely used you. When you step back from the performance, you step into your own authority. You become the author of your story, not an actor in someone else's. In the next part, we'll turn this insight into action. Uncover practical steps to dismantle your persona and build a life grounded in authenticity and self-respect. You might think taking off the mask is reckless. That showing up as your real self means risking rejection, being misunderstood, maybe even abandoned. But here's the paradox. When you stop performing, you gain a kind of quiet power most people never experience. Start by imagining a room full of people who expect your usual act. They're ready for your predictable smile, your easy laugh, your agreeable silence. And then, suddenly, you stop. No performance, no script. Just you, unguarded. The room shifts. They don't know what to do with your stillness. Eyes flicker, words hang in the air, because when you withdraw from the role, they lose their cues. The dynamics change. And without saying a word, you've flipped the script. This isn't passive, this isn't avoidance, this is presence. It's what Jung called strategic withdrawal, a refusal to keep fueling a system that depends on your self-betrayal. And yes, some people will panic. They'll accuse you of being cold, distant, selfish. But what they're really saying is, "I don't know how to control you anymore." That's the backlash of liberation. See, when you stop giving yourself away to maintain peace, you begin to see who was actually interested in you and who was just invested in using you. Jung spoke of the shadow, the repressed self that lives beneath the persona. But he also spoke of the hidden self, the place where your authenticity, your creativity, your instincts have been waiting all along. So when you choose not to react automatically, when you stop nodding, laughing, and agreeing just to stay liked, you reclaim something sacred, your psychic energy, your sense of truth, your self-respect. In that silence, you become magnetic, not because you're louder, but because you're finally real. Next, we'll go deeper. We'll uncover how to live from this place, how to stop performing and start building a life rooted in truth, clarity, and power. Now that you've started pulling back, testing silence, noticing your patterns, reclaiming your energy, it's time to go deeper. Because the persona doesn't just vanish with awareness, it's propped up by invisible dynamics. Let's dismantle those at the roots. Start with projection. Every time you judge someone harshly, it might not be about them. It's often a mirror, reflecting something in yourself you've disowned. Ask yourself, what does this irritation say about me? It's not about blame, it's about retrieval. You're pulling parts of yourself out of exile. Then there's reciprocal expectation. You've probably been praised for being so dependable, so easygoing, so put together. But notice how that praise sometimes feels hollow, like a pat on the back for staying in costume. That's not love, it's reinforcement. Break the loop. Start accepting validation only when it reflects who you really are, not who you pretend to be. Next comes emotional contagion. The persona is a sponge, soaking up other people's stress, envy, anxiety. You think you're just being supportive, but often you're over-adapting, losing your signal in their noise. Instead, visualize a soft, protective barrier around you. Let empathy in, without losing yourself in someone else's storm. And here's a subtle one: selective transparency. This isn't about confessing everything. It's about choosing to be real, intentionally. Not with everyone, just with those who've earned it. Share something raw. Admit confusion. Offer an unpopular truth. These small acts of authenticity do more damage to the persona than any dramatic speech ever could. So here's what we're really saying. These 4 patterns: projection, reciprocal expectation, emotional contagion, selective transparency, they form the scaffolding that holds the persona in place. You break them, and the whole structure starts to tremble. It won't go quietly. As you change, old habits will tighten their grip. Voices will whisper, "Go back to who you were. It's safer there." But that friction, that resistance, it means you're right on the edge of something real. And that's where we're going next, to pull it all together, to show how real transformation isn't just about shedding the mask, but building the self that was hiding behind it all along. If you're finding these insights into your persona and shadow transformative, subscribe now. Join a community committed to authenticity and inner freedom. Hit the like button so others can discover these ideas too. And share this video with someone who needs permission to stop pretending. Your engagement fuels the journey, helping us dive even deeper into Jung's psychology. Let's continue breaking the masks together, one step, one revelation at a time. When you dismantle your persona, you step off the stage. Others respond in revealing ways. First, projection. They cast their own hidden flaws onto you. You're selfish, you're dramatic, you don't care. Each accusation is a mirror reflecting what they refuse to face in themselves. Watch how their judgments sting the most, not because they're true, but because they're shadows you once contained. Next, emotional vampirism. Some people thrive on your availability. They draw energy from your reactions, feeding on your guilt, your need to please, your fear of conflict. When you refuse to react, you starve the parasite, and that lack of supply can trigger rage, guilt trips, or silent withdrawal. Then silent alliances. Certain relationships reinforce your mask. A friend who applauds your dependability, a partner who prefers the good you over the real you. These alliances feel safe, but they lock you into roles that stunt your growth. Finally, collective shadow. Society itself demands conformity, cultural norms, corporate values, social media scripts. They pressure you to perform. Each like, share, or compliment tightens the mask. To break free, you must recognize the cultural demands you've internalized and choose which to keep and which to discard. These advanced dynamics reveal the dark games that keep your persona alive. They show why stepping into authenticity can feel like a crisis, because you're collapsing not just personal masks, but the silent expectations others have woven around you. But this collapse is necessary. It clears space for genuine connection, for relationships based on truth, not utility. It invites you to build bonds that celebrate your whole self, not just the parts they find convenient. In the final segment, we'll weave all these insights into a cohesive path, demonstrating how true individuation emerges when you transcend these dark games, and how you can celebrate the freedom found on the other side. So far, you've uncovered how you learn to hide behind a mask and the toll it takes on your energy and authenticity. You've seen how strategic withdrawal can reveal your hidden power, and how to dismantle the persona's roots through projection, boundaries, and selective transparency. You've faced the dark games, emotional vampirism, silent alliances, and cultural scripts that try to keep you confined. Now imagine what happens when those masks finally shatter, when you no longer play the roles others wrote for you. In the next segment, you'll discover the ultimate reward of this journey, a true rebirth, a life crafted from your own inner compass, where every choice, every relationship, every moment flows from your genuine self. Get ready to step into your new reality. You've come a long way, not just through this video, but through every moment in your life that made you question, who am I really? You felt the weight of the mask. You began to see the cost of pretending. You stopped reaching for approval that left you empty. You learned to withdraw, not to disappear, but to return, to yourself. Now, something is shifting, and it might feel like something inside you is collapsing, but that's not destruction. It's the beginning of truth. Start by letting the old script fall away. You've been the loyal friend, the good partner, the competent employee. Roles you played so well, people forgot you were acting. Sometimes you forgot. But every one of those roles was a line from a story someone else wrote. And now, the paper is burning. You may feel grief, fear, even guilt. That's natural. When the familiar falls apart, even if it was a cage, you feel the absence. But that emptiness, that's where freedom begins. The energy once trapped in performance is now yours again. Then comes the void, and this part catches most people off guard. You remove the mask, and suddenly you don't know who you are. This is where many turn back. They cling to old roles because the unknown feels worse than the lie. But if you can stay, breathe in the silence, you'll begin to notice something beautiful. Desire, vision, curiosity, not borrowed from others, but yours. As Jung said, we cannot change anything until we accept it. So first you accept the discomfort. Then you plant your flag in the fertile soil of the unknown. Now, rewrite the story, not for anyone else, not to impress, but to remember. Who am I? When no one is watching, what lights me up? What breaks my heart in a way that calls me to act? Don't just think, write. Write your truths. Write the values that feel non-negotiable. Write your new mission statement. It can be a single line, or a paragraph that shakes you awake every morning. Tape it to your mirror, put it in your phone, keep it where it can interrupt your patterns, where it can remind you I don't have to play a role anymore. Then rebuild your relationships on truth. Not everyone will make the journey with you. Some will miss the old you, the compliant you, the agreeable you. Let them. Your job is not to shrink back into who they remember. Your job is to stay close to who you are now. But you'll also notice something else. Some connections grow deeper. They breathe easier, because now you're showing up with no mask. And that creates space for others to do the same. Be selective with your vulnerability. Don't spill everything. Reveal the parts of yourself to people who've earned your trust. That's not hiding. It's respect for your own soul. Turn this into a practice. Authenticity is not a switch. It's a muscle. It gets stronger every day you choose it. So design rituals that hold you accountable, a quiet check-in each morning with your mission statement, a weekly moment to ask, did I live today as myself or as someone they wanted? A space to play, not to perform but to explore joy without judgment. These acts stitch your true self into the fabric of your daily life, and little by little they make the real you feel more real than the persona ever did. And finally, understand the ripple. When you become real, you don't just free yourself. You start sending silent invitations. Your grounded presence, your refusal to play pretend, it shakes people. But it also inspires them. You become the mirror they didn't know they needed. You give them permission to question their own masks. You become a node of healing. And in that, your private transformation becomes collective medicine. This is what Jung meant by individuation, the process of becoming whole. Not by cutting parts of yourself off, but by integrating all of it. Light, shadow, wounds, desires. And now, you're not acting. You're living. You're choosing. You're showing up from the center. So let me ask you now, before you scroll, before the algorithm takes you somewhere else, are you ready to stop pretending? Are you willing to risk being yourself, even if it costs you everything fake? Then start small, start now, even just by sitting still with this feeling. By writing one honest sentence, by saying no, where you used to nod and smile. You don't have to blow up your life, you just have to stop abandoning yourself in it. The rest will follow. You've been brave enough to drop one mask, but this path is just beginning. Which part of you will you reclaim next? Write it down in the comments below. I'm genuinely here to read and hold space for your journey. If this video stirred something in your soul, hit subscribe to walk this path together, alongside others doing the same inner work. Because quiet truths deserve a quiet community. Share this with someone who feels more alive when unseen, who keeps adapting to fit in. Let's give them permission to just be. Remember, transformation isn't meant to be a performance, it's an unfolding, quiet, powerful, wholly human. I'll see you there.